Hey, everybody. This is founder Laerun from Fantasy Grounds College. I'm going to do a Fantasy Grounds Unity beta help and questions. So, the disclaimer I want to tell you first is that Fantasy Grounds is still in beta. The things that you see here and watch are not the final version, and they will be rolling out anytime in the next couple months or less. So this is just to kind of get you started. So if you've already purchased Fantasy Grounds, or you're on the fence about it, or maybe you want to, try to get things going for your table and you haven't even used Fantasy Grounds yet, this might be a good alternative for you. But I would probably wait to move your campaigns over to Fantasy Grounds Unity. I would keep using Classic, and then use the Classic until the final release comes out, or at least a stable release. And that way, you can ensure that most of the bugs have been worked out. Now, Unity is going to be a work in progress. There's going to be features added over time. There's going to be features that are improved upon. There's probably going to be features that are taken away. There will also be things that might be really cool in the future. Hey, how's it going, man? So I'm just trying to get people kind of familiar with what it looks like, how to get started, some things to look at. I'm going to go over a little bit of the map tools. I'm not going to get too deep into it. And you can pretty much rest assured be that this program is much like Classic. It's just got a few extra things in it that are different, such as the connectivity is different, the fact that it has 64-bit memory, and it also has the in-game mapping tools. But other than that, it's pretty much the same. There's a couple features they took away, a couple that they're adding, and it's really not that different. So as a player, you probably won't notice as much. As a game master, the way you manage your images is going to be different. But other than that, building characters, using the combat tracker, those sort of things are very similar. So you're switching to Fantasy Grounds Unity from Roll20 and can't wait for my group to get started. Yeah. So Ramsey, what I suggest you do, I mean, you don't have to, but I would wait a couple weeks if you can, and make sure that Fantasy Grounds is out in full. If you need to, I would get a subscription for the first month or two. Check it out. Buy your content, regardless of what version you use, either it's Classic or Unity. You will get, it's cross compatible, so you can use your books and such in either platform. The other thing is you want to make sure that your players can connect to your table before you go out and buy a whole bunch of crap. The other thing is if you want to use Unity Classic for a little bit, maybe a month or two, you can go that route. And then once Unity drops and it's on Steam and everything else, I think you could go and update it or change your subscription over to Unity. And all your content will be there. It's just a matter of time. Yeah, that's cool. So I've been trying to get everyone to switch for 2 years. Yeah, now it's time to switch. Yeah. So just be careful with that. A lot of people are going, "Hey, I'm playing Unity and it doesn't work." Well, honestly, it's in beta, so I don't have a lot of sympathy for that, other than the fact that I know it will get better, and that people need to be a little bit more patient. They need to be a little more diligent. Start reporting errors that you find in the Fantasy Grounds forums. And really, the only reason they released it early was to give us a chance to preview it. I jumped right in during the alpha, and it's come a long way since alpha. So if you are an alpha user, you know what I'm talking about. But for the most part, it's very similar. Yeah, I'm cool with beta. It's still better than Roll20. Yeah, it might be, but there was some little hiccups here and there with networking. I think the latest update they put out is going to help a lot. And there's some other things going on out there. If you use Cox Media, Charter, Spectrum, Comcast, Xfinity, there have been a lot of issues with them blocking incoming signals to your machine. So in other words, there's advanced security that they have turned on for people. And if you're leasing equipment from them, it blocks people. So just to let you know, if that happens, make sure you go online to your account, make sure they haven't enabled the advanced security. They might publish that out in the newsletter for Fantasy Grounds coming up. It's a really big problem that, people are saying, hey, it doesn't work. Well, it's actually, some of it may be from the change in the internet security protocols. So you had tested connectivity. Yep. They showed a Q1 release. Yeah, I know. They had a last show they put out. They said that they would basically, they would let us know. The goal was to have it out by the end of May. One thing they were doing is making sure they can get it up on Steam. So if it's not out on Steam yet, then it's probably not going to be out on beta. And Mac is still got a ways to go, I'm afraid. They're still battling Mac and also Unix. I know they're working on it, so you're going to have to be patient with that. I don't know what's going on. I'm not a Mac user, so I don't really understand the problems, but I know some of it's networking, some of it isn't. Just like some of the other rule sets still need some work too. So they have a lot of the D&D stuff done, but they got a long ways to go on some of the lesser used platforms. So there's a lot of things that have been coming up with this Unity release, and we still have to remember it's beta. So until they fully release it, I would not really count it against them. Especially with Mac, I don't think they've done a lot of work on it. For someone who really, really uses Steam, there's no real reason to use it through Steam, is there? Not so much. Steam is a purchase point. It doesn't really host anything. It doesn't give you any benefit unless you live in a different country. Now, if you live outside the United States and the dollar is worth less or more, it may change the pricing model for you. So if you live in a European country or somewhere else, the pricing might be a little bit closer to your local economy. Or if you have Steam dollars or a Steam gift certificate that you want to blow on Fantasy Grounds, that's the only reason I can think of. But yes, less drama if you don't use Steam. Steam is just a way to purchase it, so it doesn't really host or do anything. Well, you keep tracks of your hours that you put into it, but other than that, there's really no benefit of it if you live in the contiguous United States. Now, if you lived in Mexico or Brazil or somewhere like that, I think the pricing model is different, and you would actually get a little bit more of a price break. But other than that, there really is no benefit of using it in Steam. So if you don't need Steam and you don't have a bunch of Steam gift cards to blow, I would definitely just go straight through Fantasy Grounds. It's a lot cleaner, much easier to use. You don't have to use the bandwidth that Steam takes. It's one of those things where, it's kind of unnecessary unless you live afar somewhere. Then that might be helpful. So I'm going to get going here. Is there any other preliminary questions? Or what would you guys want to see? I don't want to just do something and say, I already know that crap. What is it that we want to see today? Aussie slang coming through, that's right. No dramas, exactly. No worries. Yeah, I just want to make things a little easier for you guys. I'm not a pro, but I've been putzing around with it. I'm starting to get a good feel for it. I'm really happy with it right now. I think it's okay. It's not bad. It's much better than it was when I first started messing with it several months ago. I was really, really scared, but it's come a long way, so I'm really happy about it. I think it's going to do some really cool things in the future. I give it about another solid year, and we'll really start seeing some cool features come out. Right now, people want animated tokens, and they want, what do you call it? They want, you get line of sight with it, but they want dynamic lighting from like torches and such. That hasn't been implemented yet. You can move around and you can get line of sight, but there's no stationary lighting that you can set up or anything like that. There's some people that want Some other, like multi-monitor support, that's not going to happen for a while, if or at all, maybe. There's some other things that people really want. So running a module using a line of sight map, sure, we can do that. I mean, that's the only thing that's really different. So we'll go through that. Make it worth your while for watching. So on this particular screen, have host campaign, join a campaign. Here's your settings where you're going to put in your key and your license data and your Fantasy Grounds Forums name and password. Every now and then you'll get a red box here for checking updates. So I'm going to go ahead and host a campaign. Now here is where you would basically set up for a new campaign. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. So I'm clicking on the new button. And I'm going to give it a name. I'm going to call it LOS stuff. I'm going to leave it on private because I don't want anyone randomly connecting to the game. And then I'm going to pick my rule set, which is going to be 5th edition. And I do have one particular icon thing or extension I'm going to use, and that's for the fonts. If you have trouble reading Fantasy Grounds, which most people do, there is a font in our community that you can download. It's in our general Discord chat, and it's pinned to the top. It actually has a nice font that you can use for both Classic, and then there's another one written for Unity. But it makes the fonts a little bit bigger. So I'm going to go ahead and hit start. But right now I have it on private and land. And I'm going to hit start. And we'll get going. Roll20 offers players different dark sight limits based on their ability. Unity, yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's not happening right away. That will change over time. I'm sure that would be something that Smiteworks will pursue in the future. But right now, it's just a plain old line of sight. That in itself was a big thing that people complained or wanted. But honestly, as a game master, I don't miss it a whole. I mean, I think it's cool, but I don't think that, it's everything. I do like the idea that you can't see everything. But at the same time, if you have to make it yourself, like with your own maps, it takes a while. So that adds another couple hours to my prep. So whenever you add more work to me, I don't like it. But that's just me. If you buy a module that already has the line of sight built into it, fine, it's gravy. It's already there, you don't have to worry about it. But if you bring in your own content, you're going to have to start putting your own maps together. It's going to take you a little bit to get used to the map tools. It's already in there, no big deal. So what I'm going to do is, I don't make stuff on my own maps and stuff. Good point. Yeah, the whole idea was so you can. And once you realize how much work it is, you're like, damn, I don't even know if I want to deal with this. But, if you're really patient and you start learning how the tool works, it's not too bad. Just don't make your map super complex. And you can use tiles, which is really nice. Before, you couldn't really use tiles. So that's kind of cool. Yeah, that would be cool to be able to make more maps for yourself. That helps a lot. But, it's time versus, I don't know. I have mixed feelings about it. So we'll see what happens when we load this up. I'm going to load the Fantasy Grounds Unity up here, and I'm just going to go straight to the maps. So instead of loading everything up, I'm just going to go straight to mapping. I set up line of sight on a map, and my players just ran around the whole map because I couldn't lock their tokens and ruin the surprises. Any idea when the map locking is coming? And no, I don't really know. I'm sure they're going to have to implement it soon. They shouldn't be able to go through walls. And if you have people that are constantly moving around on the table, that's ridiculous anyways. I myself, if anyone did that at my table, I'd just shut it down. I wouldn't even put up with that. But I don't know, the locking map thing, I'm not sure. They did mention that it was coming, but I never really got a concise answer. I pretty much thought that that was something that I thought they would have put in a little sooner, but it's not. The other thing is, if you have your walls set up correctly and your doors locked, they can only move and run around in that room. And if they're moving beyond their actual movement rate, anyways, I mean it's cheating as it is. So I don't see why they would do that. But yeah, I hear you. I want that feature to come back. It was our first session on FGU. They were excited, but I really told them that won't be happening. Yeah, I hear you. Yeah, I got you, man. That's very annoying. I would be very upset if my players did that. Anyways, so to the mapping. So I won't be able to look at the chat very often, but I will try my best. So I'm going to close the campaign setup. No point in doing that right now. Now, for images and maps, I got to explain this to you. Let me explain it. So we're used to being able to go to just the maps over here and the maps and images. And I don't have anything loaded right now. There's really nothing, but you have these different areas and assets. You have tokens, where you would actually manage your tokens. You have portraits, where you're actually going to manage all of your portraits. And then your images is going to be like your furniture, your tiles, all the maps that you want, and whatever you want to do. So I'm going to work with tiles because I think it illustrates a little bit more of the map tools instead of just having a big image and putting line of sight on it. So in order for you to create a campaign folder, you must first add assets to your game. So right now, all the assets I have here are stuff that I had purchased. But if you want to actually add your own, you have to click this folder button on the bottom left. And you want to start adding some folders in there with some assets. Once that happens, you will get a folder that says campaign. But until you do that, the campaign folder will not show. And that's kind of weird, but there is no campaign folder unless you put images in the campaign folder. Otherwise, it just takes it from the module itself. So that's one thing that's different. So the other thing they got carried away with was with seeing who could roll the most. Yeah, that's just how it goes, man. That's just kids. That's all that is, kids. All right, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to look on my hard drive and see if I have some tiles. I want to show you how you use tiles. You could just have one big map and just put line of sight on it, but I want to make a small map for you using tiles and assets and then put line of sight on it, because I don't think that just dropping a map down and putting line of sight is going to show you anything. It'll show you a little bit, not enough. So I'm going to go ahead and find a tile set. I should have probably already had one figured out, but I kind of want to make this stream more unique, and I didn't want it too scripted because then it would be kind of boring. So I'm going to go to my downloads folder, and I have a ton of tiles. So let me see. So I went and bought a bunch of modular tokens. There was a dungeon maker, and then I had this other set. So I want to see if that's going to give me the options I want. Yeah. So those are all doors. Still pretty cool though. So I have a tile set that basically has a bunch of doors. I don't want just doors. I need to have something a little bit more than that. So here's some forests. Take a look at that. Yeah, so this is called the Wilderlands. I'm going to go ahead and add that to the, yeah, that's perfect. Awesome. Okay, so I'm going to extract this folder, and I'm going to put it into the folder the assets folder that I'm looking at here. So I'm going to go ahead and extract them. Now, once I extract the images into that folder, it just now made a campaign folder. So now I have a folder called campaign. And in here should be my tiles, which I only see one. I'm not sure why. So I have to go back in there. Oh, it only extracted one file, really? Okay. There we go. So what I've done here is I've added a bunch of tiles to the campaign and some doors. Yeah, there's the forest, cobblestones. There we go. All right, so here's some tiles that I've added to my campaign. One word to the wise, do not add 50,000 tiles to one folder. Try to keep them in subfolders. Like technically, I should probably make these doors one folder and then these other tiles one folder. So that's something you got to watch out for. Otherwise, you'll overload the memory and it'll have to take you 2 minutes to open up something. So now what I'm going to do is make a new group. So I'm going to just call this forest map or something. Don't have a good name right now. And that's the new category. And the reason I put it in a category is so it's organized and I remember where all my stuff is. Then what you're going to do is drag these tiles from your assets folder into the maps and images area. So I'm going to snag this terrain here. And you can see it brings this up. You can do it that way. So if you want to use this for your starting point, you can. Or you can make a stamp tool type thing. So I'm going to close this. So this is one way where you can just lay out all your maps. But the best way to do this is to create a blank image. So I'm going to hit Edit. I'm going to click the Screen Plus button to add an item. And this is going to just say New Image. So I'm going to call this Map Forests or something. I don't know. There we go. Forest tile map. So right now I'm trying to wait for Fantasy Grounds to do a little thinking. The memory on it is not optimized 100%. So if you go to use it and it hesitates on you, usually it's kind of thinking and doing its thing. It has some fine tuning on the memory optimization. But for the most part, it's pretty good. Usually I wait a couple minutes and then I'll come back and, it's usually not a big deal. Besides, you won't be doing this during a campaign, hopefully. All right, so there's that. So this is actually just a blank slate. There's nothing on here yet. So I want to utilize these tiles that I have. Well, you don't just drag them onto the map because that sets them down as a big layer. So I want a tile layer. So I'm going to go first. I'm going to set up a grid. I'll start with 100 by 100. So this is my grid. And I'm going to drag one of these into the actual tile area. So you click on layers up here on the top, and then you click on this little tile tool, not the pointer, but the tile tool. And you're going to drag the tile in here. So I'll just drag this base terrain over, something kind of plain. Here we go. This is very plain. So if you saw that, I drug this up to the top of the, in this tile zone. So that's how you do that. So now that you have it in tile mode, you can actually just click anywhere on the map, and that will set up your tile. 100 doesn't look too bad, actually. And then I can click again to set another tile down. And if you need them to match up, so if you don't want the pattern to be the same, and you have this tile selected, which is this top one, you can rotate it, which you can't really tell, but you can flip it, and it will change. You have to have the right one selected. So here I have this selected. You click on selection mode, and then you can flip it. So instead of having those mushrooms in the exact same spot, you can flip it around. And then also I can do this opposite thing, and then you can rotate it like 45 degrees or 90 degrees, and then butt it up. See, that's just kind of how you play with tiles. Upon the path, hello, just got here. Yeah. When you are making custom weapon, are the rules in the notes of that weapon? Then you have to macro the rest? Correct. I think, yeah, so that's a little off topic, but yes. When you make a custom weapon, are the rules in the notes? Usually, yeah. You should make an item first, and then drag it over onto your character sheet. That's the cleaner way to do it. So if you're the game master, you go in, you make a new item, or use an existing weapon as a template, change or copy the way that it's set up, and then you'll get the feel for how those items are supposed to be dealt with. But right now we're kind of talking about the mapping tools, but if you want me to show you that later, I might be able to do that. Yes, you if your weapons are magic, you'll have to macro that part of it. The damage, the 2-hit bonus, you can put like fire damage, that sort of thing. That can all be done at the weapon level. But if it has any other special spell-like abilities, those have to be macros. Basically, you'd have to set up spells to use for it. Hey, what's going on upon the path? All right, so now that I have those tiles laid down, now I'm going to switch tile. So I'm going to go back in the tile mode, but I'm actually going to drag one of these forest-looking ones. And I'm dragging this up in the tile area. And I'm going to click this stamp tool. And if you actually, let's see, if you stamp in the correct area, I mean, you can get it to land just like that. And then I'm going to use a different tile. So again, I'm in the tile mode. I'm going to drop this tile in this time. Make sure I'm in the stamp mode. And I'm going to click right about here. That was off a little bit. There we go. It's a nice little forest glade or something. I don't know if you guys can hear all that background noise. Can you guys hear the... If they were the same exact... Yeah. Are maps built in with this tool less resource intensive than imported maps? It's hard to say. It depends on the resolution, what size the tiles are. If you're using PNG files or JPEGs, all those things kind of change that. So the more assets, I imagine, the more memory, and it's probably going to bog it down. So it might be easier to just bring in a map, but you don't have as much flexibility. So it just depends. But if they were the same exact size and resolution, I don't know. Tiles might be a little less because you're working with smaller pieces. But once you have the big map laid down, you don't have to work it that way. So you could possibly assemble your maps outside and then bring them into Fantasy Grounds. But I think just having the built-in tile tool is really nice because you can flip them, rotate them. You don't have to use GIMP or Photoshop. And then you can actually put assets on top of them. So let's take a look at that. So I might add one more group of tiles. So let's see. Actually, that's a pretty good size battle map. If you don't want to have to drag everything all over the place, I think this is a good size battle map. If you get any bigger than that, it gets kind of ridiculous. So now what I'm going to do is actually put something on top of the layers. So I'm going to go to the pointer mode, and I'm going to drag a campsite. There's one where it's abandoned, and then one where the fire's going. So I'm going to bring out this old campsite. So right now, it's full scale. Honestly, I think that's a little big. So what I'm going to do is move it a little. And then I'm going to shrink it down a touch. So right now it's at 5.1. So I might go to 4.5, 4.5 or something. And I can scale it down. And then to rotate it, you can do it by hand, but it's easier if you actually use the numbers. So you can rotate it 90 degrees. Or you can rotate it 100 degrees. However you want to do it. Whatever degrees you want to rotate it. So there I rotate it 270 degrees. So that's basically how you lay tiles down. So there's my little campsite. I don't know, can you guys hear some birds and all that chirping? Yeah. Yeah, it's birds and a stream nearby and that sort of thing. So that's what you're hearing. Hopefully it ain't too loud. If it is, I'll turn it down. Just need a little inspiration for the outdoors. Is it too loud? I can turn that crap down. There, I turned it down a touch. So you can hear my noise, or hear my noise instead of the bird noises. Okay, so there's these little campsite, or these trails. So I'm going to make a trail that kind of trails off this map here. Maybe I'll have it go down this path. So this is a cobblestone path. So I might have it cut through the center. I can't help to think that's a little big. I mean, look at it in comparison to the trees. So I'm going to go with about 8. Right now it's 11.2. There we go. See, I just dragged that over as an asset. I should have made that a tile instead. But I'm going to go ahead and just kind of complete the path anyways. Again, 8. And then I'm going to go ahead and put this junction in here where it turns the path. So again, I'm going to select this corner path. Scale it down to about 8. That way it matches up. And then I'm going to go ahead and put one of these in here, but I'm going to have it rotate as well. So it's not too long. So basically there's my trail path, and that's going to be it for that. So there's your layers. So now I want to have some rain or mist. I don't know, what do you guys want to see? There's not too many effects right now. It's still kind of new. So rain, mist. I can do snow, but that kind of doesn't make sense. So what you can do is you put an effects layer. So I'm in layer mode right now, and down below is a little effect symbol. So the effect symbol is on the very top, because everything on the top is going to be on top of this layer. So I can either show you rain or some kind of mist, like clouds that goes past. It's kind of up to you guys what you want to see. Make it rain. You got it. So I click on the effects layer, and then I go to the effects button up here, and this is where you select the effect you want. So here's the rain effect. And now it's raining on top of these people out here. And it makes sense. The campfire's gone out. It's just kind of smoldering. There we go. And we have the rain in the background too, in the river. So it looks like a hunter's camp, I guess. So what I'm going to do now is start using the line of sight, so you guys can see how that works. That's a pretty good sized battle map, if you're going to make it a battle map or an encounter map. So I'm going to close my assets folder for now. And I'm going to go ahead and make this bigger. And then I want to right click on it, click view, and center or zoom to fit. That way it's actually centered. And then if you lock it, you'll actually get this like we used to have in Classic. So there's your rain covered walkway. There's no way to scale the rain. I wish you could change that, but right now you don't have the ability to do that. It's raining, biatch. Okay, so now we have this pathway. We've got this little campsite, some rocks, mushrooms, and forest. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go in and put line of sight. But I'm just going to do it on a... So I don't have to put it on everything because it's outdoors. And that's part of the reason I chose not to do the, a dungeon map where you have to basically do it to everything. So right now I'm waiting for Fantasy Grounds to think. For some reason, every 10 or 15 minutes, it seems like it offloads or dumps some memory or something. That way it doesn't fill up too fast. So I think it's got to be optimized a little bit more. Okay, here we go. So now that I have this in place, I'm going to unlock it again. I'm going to turn the rain off for right now because I don't need it just yet. So I can change the visibility and just turn the rain. It's still there, but it's not active right now. The other thing is I'm going to go ahead and add some terrain tools. So right now, the only thing I'm going to put terrain on are these cases here. I guess they're chests or whatever you want to call these big crates. So I'm going to just make those terrain-like tool. So I'm going to go ahead and click on the line of sight tool. And these aren't hard lines, so these are just going to be object lines for terrain. So I'm going to click on the tree. So even though they're not really solid, you can't see past them shadows unless you get close. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hand do these. So I'm going to go to line, and I'm just going to do this by making a line here. So I just click here. And I hit escape, and that allows me to get out of the trace mode. I'm going to also do it to this. And maybe this little guy here. Another area is the forest. So rather than tracing around this whole thing, I think I'm going to make a big circle and then kind of stretch it. We'll see how it goes. So I'm going to go to the ellipse or the circle mode, and I'm going to make a circle a little bit bigger than this circle here. Now I have this big circle to work with. Now if I want to drag it or move it, if you only click on one point, it will only move that line. But I go into select mode, and if I double click on any one of these points, it grabs all of them. And this is what I'm going to use for my area. So I'm going to go ahead and click on just the lines one time. And I'm just going to start dragging these where I want them to go. So I think this is a little quicker than trying to trace. It doesn't have to be perfect. I mean, for crying out loud, they're trees. And that's why I made the circle bigger, so I have more flexibility. If you make that circle the same size, you're going to run out of space. It's better to have more points than not enough. So I'm trying to find out, what's the best way to make this happen quicker. So I'm still kind of experimenting. And it's kind of better if you zoom in a little bit. All right, good enough. It's a lot of work, but you got to find a way that's quicker for you. All right, good enough. I'm going to go ahead and do these big stones. I thought you could hit the space bar when you were plotting mode, and you could quickly move mouse, hit space to drop a point. Yeah, you can. I was just utilizing the points I had first. Yep. So this one I'm going to do by hand. So I'm going to go to layers mode. Okay. So my line of sight is on the top layer, but the rain's going to be on top of that. Okay, so now you can actually change the color of the lines too. So if you went into this grid mode and you wanted to change the color, you can't change the thickness, but you can change the color. So if you want it to be like a purple, you could do that. And then if you wanted to turn the visibility off, you could totally do that. It's still there, but it's not visible. That's kind of cool. Let's see. So I'm line of sight mode. I'm in the terrain tool, and I'm going to go to line mode. Just do these ones by hand. Hey, good enough. Or you could do the circle mode again. And then you can double click, move that into position. Then go back to pointer mode or selection mode. Close enough. All right, so that's basically the work right there. Also, if you have hard lines, you have to put all that in, or doors. So it can take a while to do these maps. So do you think people should stay with FGC? Yeah, that's just my opinion. The only reason is because, I mean, you're adding more prep time, but also you're adding the fact that, it's not quite done yet. A lot of people move over their campaigns and they complain it doesn't work. Well, it's not even fully done yet. So my thing would be to just wait another month at least. I mean, it's not going to hurt. We've waited this long. So right now, I will turn back on the rain, and we'll go back into play mode this time. Okay, so there's the rain. Cool. Okay, so now if I go, I'm going to title this. I call it Forester's Camp Road. I don't really have a good name for it. Click the non-ID button. That way the players only see that. And then lock it. And now you have these little objects here. And this is in play mode. So to show this how this works, I'm going to have to get a character. So I will do this, and then I will bring a character into the mix. So there's the combat tracker. I'm just going to pull up a character that I already have made. So this is different. In Unity, you don't have the character manager thing anymore. You can actually bring up any character that you've made in Unity, regardless of what campaign. So if I click this green plus button, or excuse me, the import, it brings all the characters that I've made. And even if you have duplicates, it'll have duplicates of each one. So I'm going to bring out this Groglor the Grotesque. So I added him to the campaign. And then he's going to be now available in this Unity, or the character selection folder. Now I'm going to take him and double click and give him some kind of half orc. That's what he is. He's a gladiator. There we go. Groglor the Grotesque. Now, if you have nice tokens, I mean, you can use them, but they're kind of hard to see. But I'm going to go to my assets. And this time I'm on the tokens area. So if you have token collections and you're only seeing this many and you have more than that, there's an arrow down here for the next page. So if you click on next page, it'll take you to your data folder, and these would be the ones that you've added yourself. So in here, I have a bunch that has to do with some ones I had commissioned. But I'm going to type half orc. So here's some orcish ones. Maybe I'll just use this, even though he's a half orc. Let's see, is there anything else? Not so much. Let me try fighter. Let's see. Nothing really stands out. So now I'll go to the master collection. Oh yeah, plenty of them in here. So I think I'm going to grab this guy. So now I have a token and the portrait. So now I'm going to put him on the combat tracker. And after that, I'm going to put him on the battle map. So he's walking down the trail. Yeah, staying with classic is probably a best bet. I mean, just for now. I don't think you want to jump right over. I think you want to explore it before you move your campaign. So here's the token. Kind of like how it has this base on here now. I didn't put that on there, so that's cool. Alright, so that makes the token stand out more. Now I got to go back in, and you have to enable line of sight. So it's not enabled by default. So once I do that, now the lighting will cast shadows depending on what he goes next to. So I'm going to recenter the map and hit view and zoom to fit. So when you're actually a player and you're on the map, you will only see the area that's lit up. So the forest is kind of blocked. And if he gets close enough to this campsite, you can click to open the so that the light goes through them. That way there's no shadow when you're right next to him. So we can say he's camping out by these crates. So basically that's how you do the line of sight. So if you had a rogue hiding it behind these rocks, you could totally do that. Because when you have a different token, they won't be able to see what they see. So let me put these back on, the shadow. And let's hide him. Let's say he's kind of hiding here. Or maybe he's sleeping. There we go. He has his back to the wall. So he's kind of sleeping behind this crate. So I'm going to put some creatures on here. I don't have any loaded. So I'm going to go to the library. I'm just going to load the SRD. Maybe a goblin or something out. We'll see. So sometimes the way Unity's set up now, when you access a library, it can get a little, it'll kind of freeze on you for a little bit. So you want to make sure you let it think, be patient with it. They'll get that down for the memory optimization is better. Right now, it's still kind of a little bit weird how it indexes, and I'm not sure how it addresses it. But anyhow, let's see. So I'm just going to load the bestiary and the SRD data. Okay. So let me make up a little mini encounter. So I'm going to make up a little goblin encounter or something. So we have a hobgoblin, like he's their boss. And then we got a couple minions. We'll call this Goblin Patrol. Let's see. Find another token. Here we go. So here's a hobgoblin. So I'm going to replace this with a better token. And this is a Bernardo Hasselman's tokens. Are really nice. And here's his goblins. So I'm going to grab one of those. Cool. So I'm going to lock it. This down. I'm going to pin the map to the, or pin the encounter. So we say they come from down here somewhere, maybe from the forest. There we go. So he's camping out here. Alright, so I'm going to bring these guys up. And I'm going to place them. So the boss, he's going to be right here. The minions are going to be up front. Then I'm going to hit this down arrow. That puts them on the combat tracker, and you kind of see where they're at in location. So when I pick up one of these guys, that's what I can see. So I can't see him very well if he's hiding behind that thing here. So the goblin is basically exploring to see what's going on here. So that's how you would handle that. So I'll say I'll move him up here. His little buddy is right here. And the boss man is here. So there we go. Alright. So I'm going to roll for initiative. Okay. So it looks like the hobgoblin boss goes first. So he really doesn't have anything to say. So he's just going to stand put, and he's going to pull out his his longbow. And they're all visible, so they're not hidden. So he's just waiting. He's going to hold his action. So unless something happens, he's not going to do anything. So Groglor, I'm going to roll his passive perception. So the goblins, say they roll their stealth. So they rolled a 15. So his passive perception is 11. So he didn't notice the goblins. So he's not moving. He's just staying there. He's half asleep. So he's kind of hanging out. So this little goblin here, he wants to see what's going on. So he's going to move over towards the camp, and he discovers this guy. So he's going to stop for a minute and motion to his friend. So his friend is going to move up here and hide. So that's his action. So that they're not going to do anything, but they're hiding. They also signal to their boss that somebody's here. So he comes over. He moves a little closer, draws back his bow, and that's it for that. So now, yeah, goblin number 2 is going to finish his movement, and he is going to do a surprise attack on this guy. So this guy is basically sleeping. He didn't hear the goblin approach him. So the goblin is basically going to get a free attack on him. So the goblin swings his blade, and I'm going to give him advantage since the guy was half asleep. And he's going to use his scimitar. And he's able to score a nasty hit. So Groglor was basically killed in one hit. He's unconscious. So they knocked him out. But actually, he should have only had 5 points of damage, so he's 23. So it's 5. So he's not unconscious yet. He had damage from a previous battle, so. Okay, so that's that. So he wakes up now. So this guy, he takes his bow and he targets him. So you can still target. And he is going to use martial advantage. So once per turn, the hobgoblin can deal an additional extra 7 2d6 to a creature it hits with a weapon if that creature is within 5 feet of an ally of the hobgoblin that isn't incapacitated. So he's going to use his martial advantage also. So the first thing I'm going to do is first do the attack with the longbow. And that's a miss. So he missed his target. Oh, yeah, he missed. Boo. See, he has him targeted, but I don't see... Let me try again. Yeah, so that's a miss. Automatic miss. So, he missed. Okay, Groglor stands up, turns around, he sees this goblin. On his actions tab, he has a net, a javelin, a great axe, and a dagger. So I'm going to use the great axe. And that scores a nice hit. Wow. So he killed that goblin in one hit. So anyways, that's how the line of sight works. Pretty much everything's the same. Hopefully that'll help you guys. That's pretty much the end of the video. Hopefully that helps you guys, and I hope that you guys can wait a little bit for Unity to get fully developed, so that way you guys don't go nuts. So is there any questions before I go? I think one of you asked about the weapons. So weapons, I can show you that now that I have a character sheet. I don't remember who that was. If I scroll back. Yeah, I don't see. Yeah, I don't know if he's in chat anymore. Oh, wait. When you make a custom weapon, are all the rules in the notes of that weapon? When you have to make a macro. Or then you have to make a macro. So, to answer your question, hopefully, I'm going to bring up Groglor's sheet. So these are Groglor's weapons. So if you make a custom weapon, you click the edit button, then you click the sword, and that makes a new item. So you want to make sure that it's not just carried, but actually equipped. And then when you open up the magnifying glass, it's pretty much blank. So let's just make him a spear or something like maybe I don't know, maybe he throws a rock or something. So let's do that. Actually, I'll make a great axe, a magical great axe. So here's his regular weapon, and here's the blank. So I'm going to drag the damage. That's already there. the type of damage. Oops. And then I'm going to put 1. So there's your magic. So it's slashing, comma, magic. And then there's a +1 bonus to hit and to damage. Then up here under Great Axe, I just put +1. So if you need to know what damage each weapon does, you'll have to look at the player's handbook. Or you can look at the items in your inventory, provided you have the content. And then you can decide which dice you're going to use. In this case, I'm going to have the axe do an additional 4 points of damage. And this is going to be fire. So now I've added a new line with fire. So now I have the Great Axe +1. So I'm going to have him move here. He's going to swing the Great Axe. He hits. And now the damage. Instantly dead. He did 10 points of damage +3 from the fire. And it actually re-rolled a 1 because the first roll was probably a 1 or a 2. So that's that. Hopefully that helps. Anyhow, I'm going to call it a night. I will talk to you guys later. Hopefully this helps you a little bit. And I'll see you guys around. If you haven't joined our community, join fantasygroundscollege.net. The details are in the description of our channel. We help you learn how to use Fantasy Grounds, and we also get you used to how to set up your games and all kinds of stuff. So we teach game masters, we teach players, we teach people that want to make content, whatever it is that you're into. We pretty much got you covered. So hope to see you around. Take care, and happy gaming, everyone.